let's talk for a moment about improving your volunteer engagement radically. Okay, and first let's learn some terminology, right? So there's a lot of different organizations that use different terminology to capture a concept that I'm going to talk about here in just a moment. Some organizations will talk about moving your volunteers from participation to engagement to ownership. Others will talk about engaging, equipping, and empowering your volunteer. But the idea is that you're constantly moving them in the direction of greater ownership within your organization, right? And if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll hear me talking about finding what lights your volunteers' fire, or finding their wheelhouse and then plugging them into that within your organization. So I'm going to give you a visual here that I think will help this stick in your head, okay? So the idea, again, being that you want to take your volunteer from engagement to active ownership of something within your organization, okay? So you might have that first step, that first engagement with a potential volunteer, just be attendance, right? They just show up at an event. They're just there. They get to observe it. That's oftentimes the first foot in the door with an organization, and that's a great place to start. It's not a great place to finish, right? If somebody wants to get more and more involved in your organization. But unfortunately, that's what happens a lot of times within nonprofit organizations, right? If they want to just attend, we're just going to let them stay there as an attendee. We never invite them deeper into what we're doing, right? And so you want to set up steps within your organization that you can invite people farther into your organization in some sort of organized manner, right? That brings them deeper into what you're doing, not only because it gives them an avenue through which they can serve the world, but also it helps your organization, right? Helps your organization serve the people you're trying to serve. And it creates more fans for your organization, right, that are out in the community talking about your organization. Beyond that, it probably creates more donations and donors for your organization because people are actively involved in helping you accomplish what you're going to accomplish. And we know that those people are far more likely to give to your organization than somebody that just attends events, right? Okay. So the idea is being after that first engagement, you have the next step, right? And so the next step might be active participation in that event, right? So maybe the first time they showed up, they were just observing. Now, on the second time, they're volunteering, right? They're getting involved in the event in some way. It can be a small way, it can be a large way, whatever works for them. Again, we're trying to identify their wheelhouse and plug them into their wheelhouse within your organization. Beyond that, now that they've been involved in the event, maybe the next step is to help planning the event, right? Hey, do you want to get involved on the planning team and really help us put this thing together in a way that's really incredible for our community? And then from there, right, maybe they've been on the planning committee for a few years. It's like, hey, do you really want to take this portion of the planning and make it your own, right? You run this play. It's your baby. I will be here to support. Go. Right? And once you get to that point, you are now approaching the level of all-star volunteer, right? It's like, oh my goodness, we've got a person on our hands that is just crushing it for our organization. And here's the beauty of it, right? This thing's a game changer for the nonprofit leader because now all of a sudden you are delegating to volunteers and that is taking more stuff off of your plate, right? It's like, oh my goodness, this is the way it should be, right? I should be delegating this stuff to other people and I should loosen myself up. I should lighten my load so that I can focus more on developing the organization as a whole, right? And this concept was a game changer for me, not only with my day-to-day, sort of front lines volunteers or people who are involved in event planning or something like that. This was a game changer for me with respect to my board. For the first probably 4 years of my nonprofit journey, I complained about the board. I was disappointed in the board. They never worked. They never got anything done that I wanted them to get done. And all of a sudden I said, you know what? I'm just going to figure out what lights their fire. I'm going to figure out their wheelhouse and I'm going to try and plug them in within that space within my organization. And as I shifted to that, all of a sudden my board members caught fire, right? It was like, man, they're doing what they love within the context of this organization. Now they want to accomplish the other goals too, right? They want to help us fundraise. They want to help us get people to events and so on and so forth. This approach has just widespread benefits for the nonprofit as a whole, for the nonprofit leader, right? Of course, who doesn't want greater capacity? Which nonprofit leader is not overwhelmed and overloaded Isn't it great to be able to pass the ball to somebody else that you can trust, right? And to make your plate lighter. That's an incredible, incredible thing. And ultimately, at the end of the day, this is how you should be doing it anyway, right? You should be holding your nonprofit with open hands. You should invite other people into it. You should encourage them to get their hands dirty, to get involved, and take a piece of ownership in this thing, right? It's the nonprofit leaders who can't let anything go, who can't delegate anything, who end up burnout and miserable and out of the nonprofit game way too early. If you'll just adopt this model of taking your volunteers to the next right step, right, just moving them toward greater ownership within your organization, it will benefit your organization in many ways, and it will lighten your load and make the process of leading a nonprofit much more enjoyable for you as well.